Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
I'm opening. We have an eye, sort of a nostril, 2 teeth. One of the teeth has a small cavity. Close call, folks, but I think we got here just in time.
Presented by Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro. This is Anatomy of a Movie. In-depth discussions and breakdowns of various movie titles. And now that you've seen the movie, let the dissection begin.
Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for another Anatomy of a Movie. This week on the table, Cinderella. It's a rather not delicate way of saying that. So we don't really want to put Cinderella on the table, but I didn't want to say dissecting her. So let's move on. I'm John Comerford, joined in the studio by Marisa Serafini.
Hello, everybody.
Sarah Stretton.
Hello.
Roxy Stryer.
Can you tell that there's a lot of us who saw the movie?
And Demetri Panos.
Hello, movie fans.
Full boats here, and I feel it's going to be a love fest. Let's jump right in.
Full ballroom.
Full ball. Thank you very much. Our dance card is full. Marisa, go ahead. So you start right in. Jump in.
All right, loved it. Disney, amazing. They're always top notch, and of course the story of Cinderella, rags to riches. Everyone loves that. Who doesn't love that? Girls, boys, everyone. And I was very excited to see the live version of this movie. So looking forward to it all year long. And then I wasn't disappointed watching it.
I also really liked this version of Cinderella. On one half, I thought they did a really good job of combining all of the renditions of the story we've seen, from the classic French tale to their own animated Disney classic, kind of all over the board. I felt like they really drew from elements of all these different renditions that were made. On top of that, what I really liked about this Disney movie is that I felt like it was a family movie that you really could bring little kids to, and that they would love, and that it was colorful and fantastical and pretty, and just it had a very simple but nice moral to it, and I thought that message carried really strong. And so to me, I was like, yeah, if I was babysitting or like taking some little kids, I would be really happy taking them to this.
I thought the movie did exactly what it wanted to do, and I love movies that do exactly what they want to do. I think that it was courageous and it was kind, and I loved the message. Did it surprise me in any way? No. Did I really enjoy it? Absolutely. And so I think that if you are going off of what's been going on with Maleficent or all these other movies where we're seeing the other side and you're going into this thinking you're going to get that, then you are going to be disappointed. But if you go into this like this is a Cinderella story, then that's exactly what you're going to get.
Thank you. Back to Demetri.
Yeah, for me, this movie was pure Disney magic. And man, did we need a really good movie to see. And this one, this one was amazing. I was actually pleasantly surprised as to how much I enjoyed this movie. I felt, yes, I felt that as much as it was for little kids, I think that adults were going to enjoy this as well. Whether you were on a date night or whether you were taking kids, sons, daughters, whatever. I think just across the board, I found it to be a highly entertaining movie. I thought Kenneth Branagh's direction was so lush and perfect and just beautiful. I thought the chemistry between our leads was so believable. You wanted them to be together. The settings, the scenes, the locations,
the costumes.
And I was going to get to the costumes. Were lush and just gorgeous. I got to see this, and I went to see this specifically in the Cinemark XD, this large screen format at a brand new theater. And I gotta tell you, if you're going to go see Cinderella again, see it in a preferred large screen format. If you haven't already, go seek at the Cinemark XD in this new Playa Vista place, because this is how movies should be seen. To notice the costumes, the spark, like every layer of detail, it was just gorgeous. And just one more thing to look at in this movie that was, like I said, it was a breath of fresh air for this year. And I'm actually going to throw the gauntlet down. I've always been complaining about the Academy, particularly last year, about their selections of movies and this whole thing with 10 slots, right? I see at this point in time, and I know we've got plenty of movies to go, plenty of months, but there is no reason why a movie like a Cinderella can't be one of these 10 slots. If you want people to go and watch the Academy Awards, you have to start giving credit to commercial films.
All right, let me jump off on that, because I have always felt that if you're going to win the Academy or even be nominated for Academy Award, that means all your departments have to be top notch. Because why else would you get an Academy Award? I mean, you can have a great story, but you could falter on the production of it, or all kinds of things. So let me just using that as a barometer. Yeah. So did every department hit in this particular movie? Did you think that the writing was great, the acting, the costuming, the production design?
For an adaptation, for me, yes. I mean, for me, way more than, I'm going to say it again, Birdman, which doesn't stick the ending to me. This movie, for a commercial movie, all right, for a commercial movie at this point in time, I'm not saying that later on down the line I can see another movie that maybe this would get bumped off, but if you got 10 slots, put in a quality commercial film, in this is a quality commercial film.
I think that it hit most places, but for me the script was slightly lacking for it to be.
Is that because of the story itself, because of the actual script? Because there is not much to this story, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
It's not a hell of a lot of conflict.
So. I think it's because of the story. I don't think this story is Oscar worthy. I think that they did a great job trying to find depth in places that there isn't really depth typically. So I can't blame the writer, but as a story, I don't find this to be an Academy Award nominee.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just sorry to. Even for the storyline, this particular Cinderella story has been adapted and renditioned so many different times. So that in and of itself wouldn't be an original adaptation.
So it doesn't mean that it has to get adaptation, but for costumes, it should go down. For cinematography,
visual effects, production.
They were only mentioning that in that area may have fallen short. But
Right.
Sarah, what were you thinking about it?
Pardon me.
Yeah, as of right now, I'm going to play off of it could make my top 10 based on most of the categories. If you're going down to what's going to chop something off, like make it not make that top 10, then for me, the one category that's a little bit less than the others is probably the storyline. But that's also why I appreciate this, because it's a Disney movie. They're not looking to make this really gruesome, or let's get into the very dark area that this script could be, which is what you get. More conflict normally creates a richer script, creates bigger turmoil for the characters, and that's not what part of this movie is. It's actually shedding a little bit more light on the why someone's so evil than creating like continuous conflict and character arc for her. Because if you look at Cinderella as a character and where she starts at, it's the fact that she's resilient in who she is and in this simple message versus something being changed. You're not seeing a girl who starts out caring and loving and ends up thoroughly depressed or jaded by her and then like regains the message. You're seeing someone who's resilient and holds that through.
She perseveres.
And that's not something you typically see in an Oscar-winning movie that's really about a character's journey.
Yeah, and she wasn't waiting for her prince to come, so to speak, in this movie. Resilience is, I think, a very great word. She perseveres for the most part until, like, say, the middle, when things have gotten so far down. We can get into that later, but yeah, I agree with you. Resilience, perseverance, and some smarts to her as well.
I want to get John's opinion on this. Did you think it was lacking?
Whatever. I thought it was a great rendition of the story. I went mostly because we were doing this, and because I have a wife who said, "You're going," so she dragged me to it.
Smart woman.
Okay, all right. Mostly, she's a big Downton Abbey fan, so that was one of the big pulls. But she is 13 years old at heart. But anyway, so she loved this movie, but I have to say, I was extremely satisfied and surprised. Surprised in the sense of this, not because the story was different, but that they told it so well that I think they hit exactly the mark that they wanted to, and for the audience they were aiming at, but it also was able to reach a wider audience, because I was absolutely entertained. I have to say, I was thrilled by it in a sense. And the only thing I was hoping, it was just that part with the Cate Blanchett. I thought they could have dug deeper into why she was evil and had, because you have Cate Blanchett, she can play that.
Yeah.
Give her something more to play. And I thought if they had done that, that would have been just added some more depth to it. But other than that, I mean, it was gorgeous. It was fun. I love the action sequences with the pumpkin and everything at the stroke of midnight.
Yeah, that's great.
All kinds of fun in it. So,
I absolutely agree when you're talking about adding more depth to her character.
Yeah.
However, I think there's a time and a place for that, and I don't know if this audience would have really appreciated that.
Absolutely agree. I'm just saying that for me, because it's we're talking about my viewpoint. I don't think it was right for the audience necessarily, but I don't think that would have hurt the movie. I think it would have helped it. And for those that younger audience, I think that would have just had a depth to it that they might not have really understood. But I think it would have enriched the film.
Especially that one moment where she says, "You're good, and you and I am," and she closes the door, and I'm like, "And you are what? Explain to me what you're thinking."
It's great because Kenneth Branagh talks about that.
Yeah, her character.
He talks about that ... at the end, and he goes, "That was purposely left." That he goes, "You can extrapolate from that what you will. You could say because I'm not, or because I'm evil, because I am cruel." And I say, when you talk about the audience, look, first and foremost, what I really think is bold about this is that they didn't just cast their net to do girls. Now, a very interesting statistic when we talk about an audience breakdown. On Friday night when it opened up, the audience breakdown was about 75% women, female audience. Well, I'll just say female because that incorporates girls and women alike, okay? That was Friday. Now, going into Saturday, if you're thinking this as a kids movie, you're going to get a pop because kids are out of school. That's what the parents are taking them to. What surprised me the most is that on Saturday, the female component went down to 66%, okay? Usually you're not going to get a drop in an all-female-driven kind of a movie. But in this case, that went down because the male audience rose a tad, which to me was surprising.
Their wives are taking them to the movie.
Well, it's wives, it's dates, it's fathers taking their daughters.
Sure.
I went last Friday night, and there was a mother who took her son. I mean, and the son thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It was so fun to hear that kid laughter next to us, because I would just look over and I'd look at the mom and I would just that's awesome. Yeah. That is so, it was so great to see it. Now there were a lot of girls. Yeah.
How where you guys went, was your audience mixed? What was it, mostly kids? What was yours?
Mine was very mixed. I mean, right in front of me there was a gentleman who came and saw it by himself, and he was cracking up, laughing. He was probably around my dad's age, loved it. And then I had I think it was a babysitter, and the kid, because she kept checking in and being before the movie, she was like, "Did you eat? Slow down." She was just but it was not quite parentish, but you're just it was a little okay, you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?
Good way to kill a couple hours while you're babysitting. Nice.
Yeah. And they seemed to love it too. So I kind of had a whole mix of people in my audience.
Did you guys experience the same thing? Or?
Yeah, I had a lot of females in my audience, but there were a few males in their 20s, 30s right behind me. So I think it was a good balance between so many different ages and genders.
I went at 10:30 on a Sunday night, so there were no kids in the theater. There was a group of women next to me who were probably in their 40s,
and
who were.
They thought they were seeing 50 Shades.
No, throughout the entire thing, she turned to me before it starts. "I'm so excited! How excited are you?" They clapped, they stood, they screamed, they sang. They so probably were a little drunk. I didn't mind it. But I would think it was probably about 60-40 for women to men.
Well,
and
it's
and
so
packed.
Odd, because when I was talking to my friends about it, I go, it's a good movie. Playing it down, just bottom line, it's a good movie.
And my challenge is again, I'm not saying that by come December, okay, that's with everything that's coming out, but I'm just saying academies start focusing on movies like this. If they're done well, there's no reason. Your problem isn't your host, Academy. The reason why people aren't watching you is because nobody gives a shit about half the movies you're nominating. That's the bottom line.
Send your cards and letters and emails.
But it's true. There was no reason, there's no reason why a movie at this point can't be at least considered for certain types of awards going in, because look, it's getting an audience. People are really liking it. You got to sort of kind of change your thinking. We don't have to just have downer types of endings.
No, that's not true. But let's put this in the mix, because it is a very well received. It's people love it, but it's also an easy movie. It's not a challenging movie and stuff like that. So there's room in the Academy for all of that, right?
Right. But 10 slots, there's definitely room.
I think that one thing, yes, we've discussed that this is a simple story that has been retold for literally centuries. Even like people date back the original story of Cinderella to like Egypt, like before you hear about the popular French version. But what they did really well and in a very smart way is they picked very key elements from each one. Like, yes, there's nods to the French film, from the French story, which you can take even to the fact that that's the other language she speaks.
For those of us who haven't, do you mind? Do you know a few that you?
I can give you a few. The main one that people reference to the origin of Cinderella is one that was made in like the 1600s, late 1600s. It was French. Her name is very similar to Cinderella, and that's what included the glass slipper and the pumpkin. And the balls, but I believe there was actually multiple balls in that one where she does meet him multiple times.
3 days in a row.
No, I think in French it's just 2. Brothers Grimm.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
Brothers Grimm did a later version where it is 3 balls and her attire changes. The glass slippers in the second one. The third one where he splits bitch on the stairs, which is what you get in Into the Woods, is the gold. There was one earlier than the French one, but they didn't include the glass slipper. So that one kind of gets pushed aside. It's like early 1600s. And then, of course, you get tons of like Rodgers and Hammerstein. You get TV. You get the Disney version. But they've all kind of pulled bits. So, of course, you get glass slipper, French version, nods to the French. She speaks French in this. The branch about rubbing shoulders with her father comes from the Brothers Grimm.
I've never seen.
I loved that.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, see, and that's really smart, and it's a very good character part that's taken from the Brothers Grimm one, where in that it's like a hazel tree and it's like brushes off his hat. He brings it back. She plants this branch. It creates a tree that represents her mother that she prays to every night, and that's her fairy godmother.
And at the same time, they didn't take the parts of it that I didn't want to see. Brothers Grimm is very dark, and the step siblings, I believe they cut off their own toes so that they can fit into the slippers. So that would have been somewhere I didn't want Disney.
Yes,
but this is and that's what I appreciate. That's why I call this pure Disney magic, because they were able to make and they were able to make something pure, simple, sweet, but yet at the same time.
But it never got into saccharine.
No, and I mean that on like a great level, because
there's an innocence but a purity to it that is not tainted by.
And it's the kind of Disney magic. It's the kind of throwback Disney magic that that they've had, even in their in their hand-drawn animation, and even going to Maleficent. I mean, in Maleficent, we talked about that. I think you even made mention that could have been the last time we had such a full boat as a panel.
We like Disney.
Yeah, and, Disney was able to take, you can argue in a sense, Maleficent had a little date rapish thing going on, but they made a very heroic, simple, great, magical tale that all audiences can enjoy. And you have to remember, in the 50s, Disney wasn't, you weren't categorizing Cinderella as a kid's movie. It was a movie that came out for everybody to see. And that's how they were making their bones. That's why Snow White won an Academy Award. And their other animated features were reaching larger audiences. They weren't just being, in a sense, typecast as, this is just a kid's movie. They wanted they wanted the families, they wanted dates, they wanted everybody to see. And this is what this is a throwback to.
I'm just curious if somebody goes, let's do Cinderella again. What was the room like when they said, really, we're going to do that again? Or do you think it was, let's do it again?
I think it was a movement. I think it wasn't. I think it was.
Not casual.
I think Disney plans bigger. I don't think it was like, let's just do a live action Cinderella. It was like, okay, we have access to all of these great stories. We have the foundation to the audience. Let's reuse all of this stuff in our theme parks. Let's make the live action Cinderella. Let's make the live action Beauty and the Beast. Like, this is a trend. I'm sure it's going to expand. I don't think it was like,
it's just another rebooting.
Well, but and it worked with Maleficent. I think Maleficent, it seems, at least to me, that Maleficent was the litmus test. It's like, let's see what we can do with this character, and let's see what we can play around with. Let's see if we can make a really good movie, and let's see if audiences come.
Yeah, but they're telling a totally different rendition of that.
I understand.
That's interesting. This is just, it's a reboot.
I get it, but at the same time, when you're but it's the first time, in a sense, that this was like Disney taking one of their beloved properties, doing this other side of it, but yet we're still seeing the tale of Sleeping Beauty just from another perspective. And now they're going, well, if this can work...
Yeah, no, but it was already in the...
They have the Jungle Book. Jungle Book's coming out.
But that's coming out in 2 different versions.
Let me ask you guys a question.
Right.
Would you guys have rather seen The Evil Stepmother, the movie? Or would you have rather seen Cinderella?
No, I like the version that I saw. I thought this was great.
I could see them both, because if they do it just as well as they did this one, fine, I'll see the other side. I'll see the flip side, sure.
And they've now opened up the window that they can do that.
Yeah.
Because you look at Into the Woods, they just released a separate Cinderella 3 months ago, who's a totally different character but same name. Like, they've kind of opened the window that they could make a stepmother.
So you don't think it would need to be Cate Blanchett and her children in this movie if they were going to do a evil stepmother?
Well, also the thing is, in the original stories, the evil stepmother doesn't really have a name to her. She's not.
Yes, she does. She's Lady Tremaine.
Lady Tremaine, but like the original stories and whatnot, it was always like unknown, nameless type of woman until later that they finally gave her a name. So yeah, I think her character is more intriguing enough that we could probably start a whole new movie on her. But do we need it? I don't think so.
The question was, though, do you think that it would have to be Cate?
No, I don't think it would have to be, because they just cast Anna Kendrick as Cinderella 3 months ago. I mean, maybe it would be a smarter choice to pick Cate because she's a very talented actress. People love her. She has a wonderful pull. And people thought she was beautiful and very engaging in this film. So, yes, maybe that would factor in. But I think that they've broken the rule of having to make this, like, all consistent. And they're now pulling from everywhere they want. Like, they have so much power in the decision that I don't think they would be locked into having to make it Cate Blanchett.
Yeah, but the one thing that they would have to do at this point, though, you have to remember what makes Maleficent work is the fact that they make Maleficent the hero. When you watch Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent is definitely, there is no inkling. Antagonist. She is like pure evil. Yeah. So what they did in that turnaround is sort of kind of, she made her the hero at the end. She gets her wings back. Yeah. She's kingdom of the. She doesn't die at the end. You know, and all.
Spoiler alert!
You know,
way to go.
That's what we're all about here. Now that we've already seen Cinderella, to go back and take a tack and then, but wait, I just saw the live action and you're changing everything and you have Cate Blanchett. If you were to do it, I think you'd have to completely recast because you'd say, wow, she was left as this, and you give her the motivation, but the evil in one way, shape, or form would have to, in a sense,
explore what brought her to that, and that could be perfect, because then we already saw what the result was, but here's what it, you know, we've seen that movie.
But you would have to, in a sense, prevail. It would be hard to show a kid's movie where she just remains evil at the end. I mean, I don't know.
Well, yeah, if it was a kid's movie. Sure.
One of the reasons that this movie worked for me is because I loved Lily James' portrayal of Cinderella. I thought that she was... I felt bad for her at the very core level, and then I also just thought she did a great job of portraying courageous and kind, which is, it wasn't over the top. All of that seemed to work for me. But something that, like you talked about earlier, didn't really work for me is I think that Cate Blanchett as a stepmom was a little, I think she did a very good job, and this was probably direction given to her, but she was a little over the top for me and a little... cartoony, more so the stepdaughters than the stepmom, but because I felt like Lily James and Richard Madden were so grounded.
They were steeped in reality.
Looking at them next to these people who were so evil, I was thinking to myself, how is this in the same world? Why are you so evil?
But it's also very Dickensian, because they always have these Dickens characters are extremely just evil people. It's like, why are you so cruel?
And in this fantasy world too, you're right. I mean, I agree with you, but in this kind of a fantasy world, that I didn't find her to be cartoonish. She was over the top in certain scenes.
Certainly the daughters were.
The daughters
more
definitely. I saw with Cate Blanchett, I thought she did an amazing job portraying it, because I saw more the humanistic elements of her character, the jealousy of her husband with such a good connection and deep connection to her daughter, and then that was... didn't happen anymore because he passed away. So, like, she was always jealous at this connection that she had with the daughter, because her own daughters she's not even that close. So I saw some the jealousy and the human elements to Lady Tremaine that would make her as evil and ugly as she was portrayed.
I wanted to see have her expose the pain a little bit more about what she's had to endure herself. While she took that tactic to deal with her pain and loss, Cinderella took a different road, and it would have been nice to have that fleshed out a little bit. Go ahead.
I know it's so different, but it kind of reminded me of her performance in Blue Jasmine. For some reason.
Wacko?
Yeah. And it kept popping in for me.
Well, thank God she didn't end up on a park bench talking to herself.
You don't know that. You don't know.
She's in the attic talking to herself.
You felt the same way, Sarah?
Yeah, I felt the exact same. Like, I took it further and I was like, she's Blanche. Yeah. She is Blanche from a streetcar. Like, she's just a little bit crazy.
That actually helped me.
Yeah, I agree with that. But the other point to it is I thought she was a little over top. I saw a lot of the jealousy. I thought the costumes really enhanced that. She's like always wearing green. I thought she looked magnificent, and like it was this very like I'm putting on a charade because I want to be something. But it didn't push me out of it because in the very beginning her biological parents also seemed very like joyful, just continuously joyful, like even to the point when they're like losing her mother and they have like the family hug, it's still they like I love you, I love you, I love you, like you're my little princess. Like it was just so that side of a family.
It's a mirror.
Yeah,
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. So I knew that trend was already in place for their characters, that it was like, this is your point of view, everything in the world is joyful, this is your point of view, you are jealous. Like, and it's a kid's story, so that worked for me because it enhanced like why it's good to aim to be Cinderella, who can be kind and courageous. So I think
that's a good thing for anybody.
Yeah.
So
but that's the Disney thing of making it so universal, because you're right. I mean that is a theme that most everybody should try to take to. They don't, but when you see it in a movie and it's done, you're like, it's like a light bulb goes off for you. Yeah, that's kind and courageous and kind. Must be courageous and kind. And you're like, well, it's the simplest thing that Disney brings out to light, and they do it so well. So
let me ask you guys a question, because I think that across the board, undoubtedly she was kind. I don't find anybody have questions about that, but I have heard some reviews saying that she wasn't quite courageous because it took her so long to stand up to her evil stepmother and evil stepsiblings. I think that's a
different kind of courage. It's an easy way to just lash out at somebody. It does take some courage not to be cruel or to strike back when you've been hit, because that's the easiest thing to do.
So what do you think about the moment when she goes and apologizes to her? You know, she goes down, she's crying.
It's also I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's also extremely courageous to forgive, because it's a huge.
Yes.
When she goes and she's crying and she says, "I'm so sorry," and you assume she's talking to her mom, or I don't know, maybe she even said mom. Did you find that she was saying that because she felt like she hadn't been courageous? Or do you think that was about something else?
I'm sorry, remind me what you're talking about.
She's talking about right after the dress got torn, the pink dress, and she flies away to the garden, and it's before
like a
she
kind of thing.
Well, I thought she was saying, "I'm sorry, I can't be kind to that woman." I thought she was apologizing.
I think it's a loss of hope.
Yeah,
you're on a trajectory of being kind and courageous, and I think part of the courage came from, she said, taking care of her parents' house and finding the love in that house that was lost when her stepmother gained control, and really embracing their marriage and like being able to stand that ground and to find the love in her home. And then I think when we get to that point where she breaks down in the middle right before the godmother comes, I think it's just like it's when you lose your wind, and it's just a loss of hope.
Dark night of the soul.
Yeah, whether or not she's apologizing for not going to the ball right away anyway, or for not ripping her dress back, which would be mean. Like, you can never really, I don't think they make it completely clear. Well, it's just a loss of.
Well, I took it as I took it as she was apologizing. She was like, I can't be courageous anymore. Like, you're asking me. It wasn't so much the kindness. It was her. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, in the sense. And she was apologizing to her mom, going, I can't be courageous anymore. I've lost all hope.
I can't be the woman you want me to be.
Right, and I can't continue to move forward. I think that was a very pivotal part in this before the fairy godmother comes along. Which I feel that it wasn't that she lost her kindness, but she did lose her courage, because she just broke down. Like, and we hadn't seen her, and like, she was being treated pretty shitty before. right now, like that was
So
like
she
the
didn't
worst.
eat breakfast with them. Big deal.
You know, but and you're right. And Marisa, I was thinking about you, and there was a very heavy, I think, especially the forgiveness part. There was a very heavy Christian element in this
it runs
movie.
through many religions, but sure.
No, and it just like. And you're right, one of the most courageous things you can do is, I forgive you. But that scene was great because it's like, I forgive you. She just turns her back on her and she walks out the door. And you're like, wow, that is courageous. But then you see what happened to her and her daughters through the...
You know, but anyway, to go back to your point, is I thought she showed courage in a lot of different facets. The fact that she even made her own dress and said, "I'm going to the ball anyway," that's courageous.
Yeah,
I mean, there's all kinds of moments of courage for her. And it's just courageous to say, "Look, this is who my parents see me." And there's value and fulfillment in that, and I see myself there. There's courage to follow that path. That's courageous, because you could do all kinds of things. But go ahead.
Yeah, and I see it as more of her character. Maybe it did in the movie watching it. It took a while to get to that point of forgiveness, but I saw it as her character. It's like she didn't need to always stick up for herself in that way. Like throughout the whole movie, it's like she chose her moments when to be courageous and when to speak up and to work out for herself. So I didn't see it as like it took forever for her to do it. I saw she only did it when she absolutely was necessary.
Besides, you can't really tell a Cinderella story without her enduring some...
Yeah.
Right.
There were two other major points of controversy that I found, and I'm curious what you guys think about it. Number one, we were just talking about her being mistreated, and one of those mistreatments was being called Cinderella.
Yeah.
And when she finally does introduce herself to the prince, she doesn't call herself Ella, she calls herself Cinderella. What did you guys think about that moment?
Well, that was interesting. Is that at all in any of the...
in the renditions, there are multiple renditions where she says like just Ella, going back to like Ella Enchanted, which is like a play on it. And it's like she goes, "It's just Ella," and she gets very like defiant. Also, it's in a couple versions, but I felt like I understand why people would be frustrated with it. Why she was like, well, now I'm Cinderella. I felt like it was just like one of those points of like, it's owning something and like not letting a name take power over you, but taking power over the name.
You can't define me. I'll define that.
I'll define it, and don't
Heck
forget
yeah, I'm Cinderella.
and don't forget, she had to go there under the disguise of something else. Like she had the enchantment over her so that her stepmothers and such,
sisters couldn't
but to even say that Cinderella was a complete mystery. Nobody knew who she was. And being as an Ella, they can maybe find an Ella somewhere, especially if the evil stepmother there is traipsing about. And it's like,
she doesn't say her name until they find her, though.
Understood, but if they're looking for somebody, an Ella, but she takes on the guise and she owns the name Cinderella. And I liked how I never knew about maybe I just was never paying attention so much, but I loved how they go, well, you're underneath cinder and ash, so we'll call you Cinderella.
Pretty name, by the way.
Work for you?
Yeah.
I have to say it bothered me a little bit.
Why is that?
I understand taking ownership, and if I look at it like that, I can appreciate it, but I wanted her to remember who she was and her parents' given name to her, and that she is this beautiful thing, and I didn't want her to seem jaded or changed by the fact that they called her Cinderella, and I wanted her to say, my name is Ella. Here it is. This is finally my name.
I took it just slightly different in that I don't think she forgot because it's part of her name, but I'm no longer just my parents' child. I am my own person now, and I'm choosing who I am. That's why I took it.
It's a story of what you've become.
Yeah.
And the other point was that, and this has been going on for ages, but people are confused / upset about the fact that the carriage goes back, the lizards come back, the dress forms back. No, I'm getting there. All of those things. But the glass slipper remains a glass slipper. And what I will say is, we do see her take off her flats and put them down, and the glass slippers are made from nothing. So that's the only difference. Everything else is kind of shaped from something else, and it goes back to what it was. But these would have just gone back to dust, which is the only way I can justify it in my head. Also, the fact that it's a Disney movie and I don't care that much. I care about the movie, but I don't care. Whatever, we need the slippers.
Whatever the enchantment is. Like, we're supposed to know the rules that Fairy Godmother's like,
thank you.
If I'm dealing with glass, it lasts longer.
But Helena Bonham Carter did mention in an interview that is the one thing that doesn't change, revert back to. And so she mentioned, she suggested her character say the line, "Oh, I'm really good at shoes." You know, and so they added that element to her. That's the reason why the shoes have such longevity. It's like that was her one.
I'm surprised that
one
anybody's
magical
confused
key point.
or even cares enough to go, that wouldn't happen.
This is that's the thing. I'm like, okay. I understand. Thank you. I'm like, she has a fairy godmother.
Yeah.
This story has lasted for literally hundreds of years, and that element has stayed the same. Leave it alone.
Into a coach bag. That wouldn't happen.
That wouldn't happen.
On that point,
Why a lizard? They
on
don't
that point,
know.
it's really
It's in one of the
interesting.
stories. Lizards are in one of the renditions.
At that point, it's really interesting because a lot of people also said, all right, if you have a fairy godmother, why did she wait until you were 18 years old to show up? You've been having a miserable life for the last few years, and now she's just coming along.
Because
Where was she?
Because she gave up.
Wow.
Who gave up?
Like that.
at this moment,
that's the moment she
hit her
breaks.
death.
Yeah, and
That's the moment
also-
she fully breaks.
Any longer.
And also, if she's
By
a fairy
herself.
godmother, why can't the fairy godmother push it to 1 a.m., 2 a.m.? Why does it have to be midnight? Then we wouldn't have a story.
But also, Helena did say in an interview, because we see that is a pivotal moment in Cinderella, like her losing her courage and her hope. That's the point where she kind of lost connection to her mother, and so therefore the fairy godmother is that maternal instinct that comes back into her life. So that's the reason why fairy godmother showed up.
Why
when
did
she
her parents
did.
have to die?
Yeah, why did they?
She lost the connection to her mother, and therefore the mother instinct came back into the story.
Yeah. I'm not gonna
I
argue
am
that point.
totally at peace with what happened. I am okay, but I have read a lot of Facebook comments being like, what just happened? I saw this movie. How did the glass slipper?
Yeah.
So I had to throw them out there and see how it landed.
You're
Seems
stuck
like
on
we're
the glass
okay.
Of all the things, you're stuck on the
Yeah,
glass.
that's what they took away from the movie.
You can accept
glass
the
slipper they
pumpkin.
want.
I mean, if
Not
you
just
think about
Facebook.
like 12 is a symbolic number as well. I mean, if
Sure,
you
yeah,
ended at 1,
absolutely.
that's not as memorable as. But you say 12 midnight, a whole new
And it's all
day,
about the
a whole new
chimes,
start.
and like the
Yeah.
time she gets 12 chimes to leave and get out of there.
Yeah, it's just like ending of one thing,
'cause-
starting of another.
Because
Yeah,
if
it
you
would
get
be
one
very-
chime, then
Exactly.
you're
It
in
would be
trouble.
Very.
You can't run away in one chime.
So anticlimactic. Bang. Ooh.
Was
gone.
anybody else worried about her when the pumpkin is
Oh,
going
yeah.
back and rolling?
And actually,
I'm like, girls can be bruised.
the audience that I saw that with, when that
Yeah.
whole thing's shaken down, that was great. When it
was a great
came to the
sequence.
end,
It was
my audience applauded.
Yeah, oh, mine
I
too.
mean,
the
it
drunk
was
lady's
just-
next to me screaming.
But it was so,
I think
again.
like, the way they handled it, that's really how the story would happen. You know, regressing back. Yeah, you're still in the pumpkin. You have to get out.
and
Because
what-
Disney versions is so like smooth and transitioning out.
And
I
what-
loved how realistic they portrayed.
Yeah, and what makes it work too is that all your surrounding characters
Yeah.
really wanted to make it back for her. Like you could tell, like they were like, "Oh, we're trying to hang on
she was
to
so
make
nice.
this back." Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was just great.
She
It
was
was
kind.
it was really good.
When
It was a
I
very
Great set
sequence.
piece,
It's a
great
great
set
sequence.
I saw it with my little sister, and she turned to me during this and said, "Oh my gosh, is she gonna get stuck in the pumpkin?" I said, "Do you not know the story?" She was like, "I don't really remember." So
And
that's
where
cool.
they're gonna find her and try to put.
Try to take her
There's a
out.
nursery rhyme about that.
Really?
Pumpkin seeds.
Yeah.
Cinderella in a pumpkin. Okay, please share with us.
I'll have to think about
Does
it.
it rhyme? Because I want the whole thing.
Hold on. I'll think about it in a minute. Keep
I
going.
did not know that.
This is all yours if you
right.
need.
I know we've been bouncing around a lot, but one of the things I really admired about the script was that of all the renditions that Sarah's been mentioning, it's like, how do you discern what to keep in, what to leave out, how to blend it, and how to make that cohesive? And for that alone, just discerning and choosing I thought was a great job, because they left in just enough and kept out a lot because there's so much you could keep in, but would just muddy the waters and mess it up. And go ahead, Sarah.
One of my favorite elements to it is that of all the renditions I watched the animated Disney classic the most. And I purposely chose not to watch it before I went and saw this live action one, because I was like, I hope I'm not like missing the old one, because I did grow up with it. And I found that I loved all the very subtle recalls to their own film. I liked that they took more of, I felt like, story elements to a little bit of the Grimms, a little bit of the French version. And then I felt like a lot of the design concept really came from their animated one, whether it be the pink dress to the blue dress to Lucifer running into things while trying to catch the mouse and being like knocked out, to one of the sisters singing horribly, like commenting on the talents, or even bringing in the king. Like all of that made me like be like, oh, I see where they're kind of pulling that from, but it didn't make me miss it. It just like enhanced their world. And I thought that, or like the two birds that came to her window, like all of these things were just like, it was very, very subtle how they really drew on their story. And then I felt like the bigger plot elements were pulled from the fairy tales from earlier on.
None of us have to pick a favorite, but I am curious if this is anybody's favorite way that Cinderella has been told on screen so far.
Well, I have to say yes, mostly because I don't really recall all the other versions. I saw them at some point in my life, but I thought this was just a great retelling.
Yeah, and it's hard for me because I'm such a fan of the Disney animation, but I think it's a perfect companion piece to the animated movie. I think when Kenneth Branagh he replaced another director to come on board, but there were a couple of things that he loved Chris Weitz's script, and obviously it should come to no surprise that yes, he did think Shakespeare in this, but he also he purposely did not want to be tied down by nostalgia, because I don't want this. He goes, there are elements in this that I have to have in there because they were so key, and he's making a retelling of a Disney movie. So he knew, he goes like, I had to have her call them out, even though the mice aren't going to talk or do anything. I had to have the mouse called Gus Gus. Why? Because there's a way that rolls off the tongue. It's something that's memorable to people, but I'm not going to be tied down to a ton of nostalgia. We are going to go in different routes, but I want people to be able to pick things out and enjoy it for what it is.
Really worked for Sarah.
Sarah does a really good mouse voice too.
I'm not gonna do that.
No, she doesn't. She's a really good Gus Gus.
I'm not gonna do it.
You should.
You got it. You
Sarah,
got it, girl.
So please recite the poem with the Gus Gus voice.
No.
She's described it as it's like a muted minion voice.
This is what I said, because we were talking about. I'm not going to do it, but I will explain what I meant.
I'll tickle it out of her.
Because we were talking about how the biggest, in my opinion, the two biggest changes they made from their animated classics is one, getting rid of making a musical, which is why the movie doesn't actually get my favorite Cinderella, because I'm just so connected to this being a musical.
So you like the Brandy version?
It's
that came out of nowhere. That was awesome.
Wait, stop the conversation.
I do love the Brandy version with Bernadette Peters and Whoopi Goldberg and a whole range of wonderful cast.
Sorry, continue.
I also love Rodgers and Hammerstein's original work. I love it with Julie Andrews. I love the one that we talked about earlier, Leslie Moore. I've seen the stage version of this. I love the music in Cinderella. It has some really key songs that I have such a connection to, so I have to pick a musical version as my favorite.
So that was the first thing, but what's the second
thing? The second thing is the fact that the animals don't interact and have their own plot line, because there's so much of this mouse story, of the Lucifer story, of whatnot in the anime.
Those people who couldn't handle the slipper, I don't think they'd be able to handle
that.
Yeah, absolutely not. Here's what I'm saying. You see a girl on the floor talking to a bunch of mice running around, you're calling the insane asylum. That's what's going on. Like,
why not?
Well,
people have dribbles as pets and they talk to them. If they start talking back.
But they did give them like their own little mouse voice, which is like, this is how I describe it too. It was like they took like the minion voices movies, like and they like just turn the volume really far down, and then
they chant her name, she'll do it. Sarah.
No, I won't.
But every kid has had, a pet.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So I felt like they did give them
that.
personalities, and like at the very end, I feel like you can hear the mice like kind of saying like Gus when he like jumps up to the handle. So they didn't completely neglect the mouse storyline or any of that, the fanciful version of it.
And I think that's the strength. One of the strengths of this movie is that it didn't neglect that. It just like, look, we're going to change it. We're going to have the nostalgia, but I don't want this to be. I don't want this to be a trip down memory lane. I want this to be bold.
But even that, I'm just saying,
just
the mice, getting to the window handle and Gus and everything, and right, you can't handle the slipper, but that's okay.
Wait, Marisa, I want to hear your favorites.
Well, favorite renditions. There's so many. I love Ever After.
That's my favorite.
Such a
Great
real live version. But also, just to go back to the mice, animated animals are better translated on screen in animation form compared to real life form. So I don't think even if they did want to add more to the mice element, it wouldn't translate as well.
Yeah.
So just to go back there. But yes, I love Ever After.
Babe.
How would you guys have felt if instead of mice, they changed it to a different animal? Like
No, that's just wrong.
That'd be wrong. Like little pet hermit crabs.
Yes, because
they were by the sea.
Yeah.
Sure,
you never know.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Why not? I think there would have been outrage about
But wait a minute,
Oh,
they're
yes,
hermit
there were.
crabs. But that means when they were changing the horses, would they have 6, 8 legs? How many? What would that?
So you're right.
If a
Instead of a
lizard
glass-
could be a person, then I don't think it matters.
Instead of a glass
That's
slipper,
true.
maybe it was
You're freaking me out.
iron. No, I don't know. No, I think, again, it's just one of those nostalgic points that I think you're right. People would have been upset that the mice weren't in one way, shape, or form. I don't think people care that the mice in this movie don't talk. I think they're
Because they do
happier
have
that
personality. So.
they had personality, and that
Is enough.
Is enough for people to like.
They were fun
That's
to
right.
watch.
I think another thing that they did put a nod to would be the music.
She sings at the
it's
end.
not a musical, but it is highlighted. There's like 2 of the animated classic songs put in the background instrumentally. And then on top of that, they did add the element of singing. I thought it was a very interesting choice that they didn't have her sing any of Cinderella's songs.
Right,
yeah.
It's a completely different song, but it is also famous for being in a Disney movie. It's Lavender's Blue, and it's like an old song from England, but I recognize the song because it was in another Disney movie that was made in like 1940s, 1950s.
Which one?
And okay, I
gonna sing it a little
don't know
bit
what
for
it's
us?
called
okay.
because I used to watch it.
Wait a minute. So you're not going to do the minion voice. You're not going to recite the poem.
I'm telling you about the song though.
Okay.
It's about a lamb. It's about this lamb, and it goes from like animation
Does
to like
Mary
real
have it?
life. No, but it was nominated for an Oscar. It was nominated for an Oscar for the song, and it got a lot of fame. And it's a
Dilly
Disney
Dilly.
movie. Yeah, Lavender's Blue, Dilly Dilly. But it's in one of their other films made like
Of course.
a lot earlier. I can't. Are you gonna look up what it's called?
I'm working on it, girl.
It's about
Yeah.
a sheep. Like it's about like a little. It's about
the
a
Disney
boy
film is called
who
So Dear to My Heart. In the 1948 Disney film.
Jeez, look at that. Nice pull.
Props
See?
to you.
So they
I'm a
did
great
pull
Googler.
another. Yeah, this one. So they did pull this song from another Disney movie, just not Cinderella.
Okay.
And I liked how they added just a little bit, that singing element to it, just to add to the storyline of how they got to Cinderella in the attic. Because if you're going to go to the other renditions, the animals help her out. And then they had that small element opening the window so they can find her. So
And it's also a contrast
really
to the
added to it.
fact that her sisters don't really have
Good
the capability
singing
to
voice.
sing or like draw or whatnot. That she does have this creative element to her, that she can sew and that she can sing and that she
Can talk to animals.
that's a special talent.
During the movie,
Christmas.
I didn't miss any of the music, which is a good sign.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
No.
After the movie, I thought, oh, that would have been nice if I heard some of the familiar songs. But while I was watching, never once was I thinking, ooh, when's it coming? Or, ooh, can we get this? So maybe that's because I knew it wasn't going to come.
Right, and even
I
like
actually
at the
didn't,
end of
Oh.
the movie, during the credits, we actually hear musical numbers from the actual
Right.
cast members that sing it. And I was like, okay, so we didn't get it throughout the movie, but we still get it in the end.
At the end,
so it made
it's
me
almost
happy.
like a bonus feature, and
Yeah.
and it doesn't. She if I remember correctly,
Deleted
Helena
scenes.
Bonham Carter did say bippity boppity, like right. So like you're like going, oh okay, and again, I think that the original is so ingrained in pop culture, let's say, okay, that when you hear bippity boppity, you know it ends with boo. You know that tune, so when she says it, there's no way you cannot recall bippity boppity boo. And like to have it come at the end, I think it was just genius. And again, it's that little nostalgia piece where you say something, of course you know what it is. But and again, I think it was very courageous not to go a musical route in a sense because they could have. I love the choices that they made. Yeah, I really like the choices that they made.
We've been talking a lot about things that they've drawn from or inspiration. One of the things that I thought was a fantastic ad that I didn't really recognize from another one was the addition of her calling him Kit, and how that played into the story. Started as comedy, started as kind of his own deception. Then you get the little witty banter of him like cutting off the captain of the guard, being like, "It's Kit," and it's funny. And then it grows because it's the reason she wants to go to the ball to find this guy named Kit. Leaves her being innocent and unaware that it's the prince. And then by the end, when you get "It's my Kit," it has such an emotional level to it. I thought that just very simple threading of the dialogue throughout their script was a great little addition. I loved it.
A name
Also,
helps.
Yeah, and to add to that, because the musical version of Cinderella, that's the very first number in the musical. The prince is given a ball, and the lyrics has the prince with a million different names, and so the fact that they gave him just one name, it really added to that human.
Yeah.
Also, I loved the moment where I thought that Richard Madden just did an amazing job. I laughed out loud when he said, "This is a Kit," and they're like, "Okay, Sir Kit, whatever it is." I just thought his face was so priceless.
Let's talk more about acting since we haven't really touched on it. But continue with Richard.
As far as Richard Madden goes, I thought he made an excellent prince. Obviously, I don't know why I said obviously. I am a big Game of Thrones fan, and I think that he is very talented. This was a different role for him, and I thought he was a perfect gentleman and very handsome and had amazing chemistry with Lily. And I honestly...
great chemistry with Derek, his dad.
And with his dad, and I loved their story too.
Terrific, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a great little... Yeah, it was a great B story, and I really enjoyed watching it. I can't really poke too many holes in his performance because I didn't think there were any.
No, he was... He was perfectly cast.
Yeah.
And it ain't an easy role either. I was thinking about it. I'm going, "You cast as the prince." Oh, great! I have to be the prince because you don't really get to do much. You know what I mean?
Where's the red wedding?
Stand there and be on the horse.
And I think that
sit on the horse.
Well, the script works in so many levels because number one, it gives Cinderella a little bit more, but it also gives
really
Prince
gave
Charming
him more because he usually doesn't get anything.
Yeah, he's Prince Charming.
Yeah, but the fact that they kept the father-son thing going on, I think was terrific. So they had the two things: Cinderella and her parents, and him and his parents.
Did anybody else think about it? Was the reversal of the Disney princess story was through Prince Charming, because in our typical princess story for Disney, okay, it is from the Little Mermaid and such. They are born into this case, into this thing. They have to marry so and so. They got to do this, okay, out of duty and honor. And in here, they sort of turn it on its heels, where the prince is born into something that he understands that this is what he's an apprentice to become. And now he's being told he's got to marry this person because of this, and he doesn't want to. And he's the one that says, "But Father, why can't I just marry for love? I want to." No, you can't do that. And again, when you think of when you think of the Disney princess stories, it's that theme is a common thread, and they sort of kind of flipped it around, which I thought was very clever. That you had the male saying, "I don't want to marry that woman from wherever."
But then we had the character arc of the dad who was saying no, 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 and then when he's in his final moments, I loved that he did give his approval because I felt like we needed it. Yeah. Because otherwise there would have been a whole different.
His son would have honored the father.
Yeah, I really think he would have, and I think he should have too. So I was really glad. I do.
Well,
I disagree. He says on his dad's deathbed that he loves him, but he won't do it. He's going to marry for love, and then he's like, "Okay, you've become a man. You changed my mind."
No, I think he would have honored his father.
I agree with Sarah because he did tell us that. I think it was a test. I think it was
a test too.
You know, to be whether or not he can make his own decision. And again, I'll go back to Little Mermaid. That's exactly King Triton,
which had hermit crabs. I just want to point out.
No, it didn't have
Sebastian.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I thought that was a regular crab.
In the background.
I could agree with you guys. I'm not positive because I think when you say something in the moment and then after the math of your father passing away and thinking about things would probably
weigh on you differently.
So I don't know the answer whether he would or wouldn't, but I do know it would have been a way tougher decision, whatever he did, and I don't want that kind of stress or pain for him because I think that he should be able to marry for love, and I am glad that his father supported him in that so that it didn't have to be a whole nother storyline of what do I do? Do I disobey my father or do I go with my heart? Because I didn't want to go there for this kind of movie.
And again, through performance, just changing back again, Derek Jacobi was amazing.
Great.
And again,
he's terrible usually, but on this one he finally got it right.
Practice.
About time.
But again, it adds to what Cinderella, it adds to what I think is so special about this movie, that you can have a person who, these kids don't know who he is, but he does. He turns in a great performance. But as did Helena Bonham Carter. In fact, I wanted more Fairy Godmother. I mean, like I was
surprised we only saw her the one time. But,
it was
scheduling conflicts.
She only shot for a week.
Well, when you have an affair with the director way back when. It's
hello.
That's true. Yeah. She and Kenneth Branagh apparently had a little tryst, but.
So do we like her portrayal?
Loved it. I loved
Bonham Carter.
I thought it was the real fun element that they brought into, especially after a very serious moment. Yes.
I don't think that if I was the casting director, I would have cast her, and I'm so glad I wasn't because I think she did a great job. I think all of our biggest issue with her was her teeth, and that wasn't her fault.
That didn't even
not her
bother
actual
me.
teeth, whatever. Oh, it didn't bother you?
Yeah, I didn't even notice the teeth.
It bothered me.
Yeah, it didn't bother me. Why they bothered?
She looked so beautiful and fantastic, and then she would open her mouth, and I was like, "Why? Why are they trying to do that? We already saw her as the homeless lady. We know what she could look like if she was not as beautiful."
She's England. She's from England.
But I mean, if she can do that, if she can make a glass
slip,
slipper, couldn't she?
Maybe she liked them. You don't know.
But it was
easier to eat corn with or something.
I was just wondering, why was that a choice? I don't know.
It didn't bother me.
I didn't even notice it until you brought that up.
Even to see Haley Atwell, it was great. Agent Carter was Cinderella's mom. And I was like, holy cow, that's awesome. It's like,
she was so wonderful.
Yeah.
I just was like, I wanna snuggle up to you. Yeah. You're wonderful. Who are you, magical person? Her smile.
Exactly.
And the women who played, the stepsisters, they
two
were
women
great too.
Yeah.
I thought that everybody stepped up to the plate for what they needed to do. I love the gentleman who played the King's Guard, the princes. Yeah. I mean, I thought he was a lot of fun, especially the dialogue that they had when they were like fencing and things. Everybody showed
Nonso and Nosy, is that his name from Game?
He's been in a lot of stuff recently.
Game of Thrones.
And to add to that, I did love the fencing scene. All the scenes that really just showed the prince himself as a character, not like what people see him in the public, just him as a character, which I loved. I was like, yes, he'd be perfect to be with Cinderella.
Right, and like when he's on the horse and she doesn't know, and then he's actually there and he comes out, and I'm like, yeah, you go down, Duke.
All the scenes and all the moments where it showed that he is just a normal guy that you can fall in love with.
Yeah. And I did a little bit.
Totally.
But
especially those blue eyes.
Yeah,
easy on the eyes.
Easy on the eyes. Totally
Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I'm one of the few that's never seen it, so I don't know anything about it.
But I actually thought he was more handsome in this. Just because he's a prince who's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
In the other one, he becomes the king of the north.
That's true.
Yeah, and then he gets killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
He has no more story. I actually heard he had that in his contract because he wanted to do Cinderella so bad. That he wanted his character killed off.
Oh yeah, so he changed the books preemptively.
That's what everyone says. They're like, I was planning my untimely death in Game of
My
Thrones.
demise.
No, but but he did a fantastic job. I thought the chemistry, and again, I find it very important that the chemistry between he and Lily James was
Yeah, it was
spot on.
magic.
Great.
It was so
They
good.
need to get married and run away together. And I want to be
ride away.
invited.
They need to ride away on a horse.
Oh, true.
Yeah, and I
Bareback.
felt where it really worked. Outside of when they first met on the horses, but the ballroom scene. Like the ballroom scene clinches that love story and clinches that love in such a way because it was just gorgeously filmed. The choreography, it was the way in which he had his arm on her back.
Oh, and the way she do the head.
It
thing.
was-
It's like,
it was
This is what
amazing.
they call swooning. everybody.
I was
Yeah.
obsessed
I was
with that
swooning.
theme, with that scene, because I could see all the other princesses' dresses,
that's right.
which was so freaking cool.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's Belle, and
Belle, it's Snow
they were all
White,
there.
it's
They're hanging
White.
out. You can see
the costumes were
colors.
there.
I believe it. I
Yeah,
believe it. I
just the
Oh,
colors.
side note, all those gowns in the ballroom were all handmade
All of them.
individually.
And now Halloween is going to be full of them,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I will be wearing all of them.
All of them.
same time.
While we're on it, though, we should. I mean, I think we should. We have to talk about costume.
Of
We have
course,
to.
wardrobe.
Oh,
You
but
know-
before we with the one, we haven't talked about one character,
Oh yeah.
the King's Council.
The Duke.
Yes, what do we think?
The duck.
We haven't talked about them
He
at
was
all.
mean in Good Will Hunting, and he was mean in this. What a jerk. No, he did a great job at making me not like him.
Yeah.
Which was the point of him.
Right,
so.
exactly. Like I said, this movie did exactly what it wanted
he's
to.
trying to do right by the country.
Yeah.
Aren't they all?
Yeah, but it's like that's not exactly his job.
It's exactly his job.
His job is to do right by the king, and so when he was following what the king wanted, it made sense. But then when the king changes his mind, I needed him to change his mind.
King's a doddering old fool. I'll have to take over for him in his last.
Yeah, it's
few
such
months.
like a
It's
such a needed kind of
it is. It's
character.
perfect for
Of
that, but-
course,
all right.
of course.
So I just wanted to
Who
make
has
sure
has a flirtatious relationship with the stepmother. I mean, you kind of
Well,
think they got
he
married?
He admires her manipulativeness and the fact that she's making a deal, and I think he respects it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was good to
respect that.
have
And I think
a female antagonist and a male antagonist
and
on both
they
ends.
both went to live off their happily never after.
Exactly.
Exactly. They got what
Marisa,
they
speaking
deserve.
of that, though, I am curious if you guys, because we did talk a little bit about the guy-girl thing earlier, but I've been hearing a lot of reviews about how this is perfect for little girls to go see. As a little boy, do you think that little boys would like this too?
Well,
because
that's kind of what I was saying. I don't necessarily think this is just a little girls. I don't, because there's enough in it for little guys too. I mean,
Yeah,
it's-
And I
mean-
said that at the top,
Yeah.
that I think that this movie is brilliant and it's a way in which it can cross over. Like I said, next to me was a mother with her little boy. Now, whether that could be her only child, I don't know, but it was a boy and he was loving it. And I think that, I think that with the makeup of the audience from a Friday to a Saturday, meaning that more males were coming.
I think
that helps.
13 and older, maybe not so much.
Well, I don't know, but there was the adventurous tone
Yeah,
to it. There was like what
Also
it's like
the-
to be Prince Charming and to get that beautiful girl.
The message across the board goes to anybody also,
Yeah,
because
that's
Lily
true.
James kept saying in an interview, this little boy came up to her, and the thing that he took away from the movie was the whole message about being courageous and being kind
I love that.
Yeah, that's right.
from a little boy.
Everybody's
So-
looking at you. No,
Yeah.
everybody's
It's
looking
not
at
just for
you.
girls.
Yeah, that was it's like, oh yeah.
Courageous and kind.
courageous and kind.
Yeah, and okay, let's just talk about the ball. Because I can't
Fantastic.
cover this amazing. The production time was amazing, and they really want to show off that dress, and with good reason. I mean, she looked fabulous in it. And
Oh my God.
It was just
I know
everything you
people-
want the ball to be, right?
Yeah, there are people who went to this movie to see her in the dress. People saw that she was going to be in this dress and were like, I want to see that dress. I'm
Because
going to the
they've
movie.
seen the posters and all
Yeah,
that. Yeah, exactly,
that
yeah.
dress. It was amazing. And I know some people have issues with it because, yes, originally
She's
she was wearing her
corseted.
mom's dress and then she said, I don't want it to be changed. And she's like, oh, no, whatever. But she gets the mom's dress back in the end.
Yeah, so.
So I thought this dress, it had to be blue for the reasons that I needed that call back. She looked incredible. It was amazing. The way it shaped her was like perfect. Oh my God. I just thought the
Hourglass.
dress was gorgeous.
So you hated it, right?
So, no, I loved it. I was very much trying to figure out... I don't know why, but I could see the iridescent layer under, and I kept being like... trying to figure out how this dress was moving. Yeah. I was very intrigued.
Are you going to make me one for Halloween?
Yes. I figured out how through watching this movie.
Use a jacquard and cut it on a bias.
Yeah. I just got to say,
very, very, very light layers.
Watching the dress.
No.
I have exhausted my understanding of...
That's why we need your wife to come in and help.
Exactly. She'd make it. So go ahead.
I just gotta say, watching the dress on screen was amazing. How it moved, how it looked and sparkled, and coming from the film production aspect, I was like, how did they pull that off?
When she's dancing and moving it with the one, oh my gosh! Just
so looking it up, Sandy Powell, who was the costume designer, she said that they used over 270 yards of fabric and over
very light fabric,
and over 10,000 little crystals on
just that dress, or
on
you mean
the
overall?
dress itself.
Swarovski
crystals.
Yeah.
So the light would hit and capture the glowing movement of it, which was fantastic.
And there were 12 layers to the dress.
12 layers.
550 hours went into making.
But how much did it weigh? That's what I'm curious.
It was
18 tailors.
You think if you were going to buy this dress in the store, how much would it cost you?
No.
If this was your wedding dress, and your wedding dress was blue.
Too much.
Way too much.
And it also took Lily James 45 minutes to get in the dress and out. It was that big of a dress.
Yeah.
To me, what was
her waist.
What was the most fascinating and what I was most riveted about, again, we're watching a movie here that there is no lack of color.
Oh, yeah.
They're watching this movie, right? Whether it's the lush scenery outside. So we go to the ballroom, and prior to Cinderella's grand entrance, right? Again, there is no lack of color going on here. And I'm not talking there weren't muted colors. There were yellows. There were other...
Especially the dance sequence when they're about to dance, and you see it just ring by everybody.
And to me, what makes that dress so special is that all that Technicolor that was there, her dress is still the one that shines out as being the most brightest, the most vibrant. It muted everybody else's costume
from the second she walked in.
From the moment she walked in.
Okay, so...
And it was just
and the cinematography in that was amazing because it was so well covered.
I'm looking up the other things that Sandy Powell has worked on, and it's truly bizarre. The Departed, Wolf of Wall Street, Shutter Island, Hugo.
Shakespeare in Love.
Oh, well, that one's more similar, but these ones, her knowledge of all these things, it's like, how did that get her this? That's just incredible to me. Yeah. She nailed it. She nailed it. Oh, the costumes were out of this world. Even the costumes were on the floor when Cinderella was sewing her own stuff. I was like, what is that? Lift that up so I can see.
And don't you think what a high bar she has to live
the
up
wedding
to?
dress.
The wedding dress was amazing.
The interesting thing about the wedding dress, because they were crunched for budget and whatnot, they only made one wedding dress. And during shooting of just promotional photos, Lily James in the dress stood too close to a heating electrical heater, and it caught on fire. Wow. But because they only made one dress, they had to resalvage it and recreate the top part of the dress.
Huh.
Yeah. Is Lily okay? Yeah, she's quoted as, is Lily okay? All we were concerned about was the dress because only one wedding dress was created.
We can get another Lily.
No, nothing to see here.
But Lily didn't mind because she's kind and courageous.
That's right. A little fire, no big deal.
But again, the other thing is, and I'm going to go back, if you haven't, you got to see this in a premium large format screen. The sparkling of the crystal. And how meticulously they were placed and how it caught light. Now, I'm sure a lot of that was probably helped out in post. But again, I'll take it to the cinematographer, how it captured the flow of that dress and everything that she wore. It was again, that scene and the pumpkin scene lived up to everything that one would have hoped for to really jump off the screen and just look beautiful. And again, I have to go back. This you can't forget about this costuming time come the Academy Awards, because it was
I agree with
so
that.
beautiful.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with you about seeing it in that kind of format, but I also would watch this on my laptop. Like the rewatchability for me in this is very high, and I would be able to watch this. I'm not saying that it would look as incredible or as grand, but I think that the movie was good enough that it's not like Interstellar for me, where it's like if I'm not seeing it in the theater, I'm not bothering to watch it.
Yeah, my only I see. Ooh, that's. I would only. Would you watch it on your laptop for the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's no good.
Well, it's worth it because it's such a good movie.
I'm no good, guys. I'm a bad egg.
That's not. I'm just saying. Like,
I'm
this is a movie
dangerous.
that
I'm
makes-
daring.
I agree.
I'm courageous.
You and I just have a difference because I'll see him and it won't.
Like I would
This is a
see it,
widescreen picture.
like if I were
I'll see it
if I
anyway.
were traveling.
Yeah.
And I had the Blu-ray and it had the digital copy. Instead of watching whatever crap they got on the airline flight, I'd watch it on my maybe my iPad at that point, because I'd already seen it. But I would know this is a movie that you gotta go out to the theater. You gotta see it in the best format possible, because you're missing out on so much. It is so lush. The sound was amazing too. The sound design and the music and the score.
Yeah.
When everything swelled up, it wasn't overly sappy. It really punctuated the beauty. The whole pumpkin scene with the music was amazing. Yeah, this is a movie that begs to be seen for the first time on the big screen.
Yeah, but also with the going back to the wardrobe, the shoes.
Right.
Of course, I mean, iconic, and I love how they executed the glass slipper. They actually used chandelier crystal for all the cuts, and there were several different
colors.
Yeah, there were several different versions of the shoe, and that was created over months at a time, like how it's supposed to look. And because Sandy, she wanted the glass slipper, because glass doesn't sparkle.
Doesn't sparkle.
It sees right through, so they had to use a different type of crystal to make it look reflective and all that.
Oh, go ahead, Rox.
This is one of the most famous shoes in the world. This and the ruby red slippers. Those are the only shoes I can really think of that are like, wow. Everybody, if you say glass slippers, everybody knows what you're talking about.
The man with one red shoe.
So the amount of pressure around... I'm going to go right over that. The amount of pressure around making the shoe is huge, because it might even be it is more iconic than the dress. And so I thought that they nailed it. I loved the way it shined, and I love that fact that you just gave us, Marisa, because I was wondering, did they do that with lighting through the glass or what? But
It was crystal, and it was based off of an 1890s shoe that she actually saw in a museum in Northampton, England. And of course, because you can't, no foot can slip into that shoe.
No.
So that's the one time where they actually used digital magic, and they created it off of leather shoes so she could actually walk.
Yeah.
Because you can't walk in them because they won't hold the weight because they're made of
they don't move.
crystal.
No,
They
like,
don't move.
No one
Wait a
should
minute,
fit
the
in
Fairy
slipper.
Godmother made him. She's really good at shoes.
she
and
was
they're
skinny
comfortable.
enough and light enough that I think she'd be okay.
But
They're
that's
more
what I
comfortable
found.
than you think.
Yeah, that's what I found fascinating.
Even though they're
Every
5 inches.
time- Yes, no. That's what I found fascinating. Every time the audience saw the slipper on her foot, that's all CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All CGI.
And I can't imagine it
Brilliant.
breathes through a wall.
A little slippery, yeah. You got the sweat going on in your foot,
this
and
is
you're
what I'm
slipping
saying.
right on.
And they attached the butterfly detail that was also incorporated into the top of the gown, into the butterflies
Yeah,
laying.
and
And I
then-
felt like there was also butterflies towards the end frame. You
Well-
got it in the house.
Well, there were butterflies on her wedding gown. Is that what you mean?
There are butterflies in the wedding gown.
Those are all hand
flowers.
sewn in,
Right.
too.
Yeah.
Now, and again, going back to costuming,
And
when you
no
look,
real butterflies were hurt in making the movie.
that's what I heard
That's
too.
good.
Yeah,
That's
it's
good.
just good
Blood,
thing.
sweat, tears, and butterflies.
She also, like in dressing Kate, because Cate Blanchett too, even being evil, she still looked beautiful. in her-
Oh my
in her-
gosh.
Her
That
dresses
green.
and gowns, and again, when you look at it too, they went to the 30s and 40s. They were looking at actresses like Barbara Stanwyck and things
Oh,
to
nice.
set up right. And so you're going back to classics, which again, we're not. It's a little bit of nostalgia here. We are going back to what all had worked on. Well, they were princesses and queens of cinema back then, and it still carries through today. And you look at her big shoulders. Yes, she looked beautiful.
It was nice.
The two dresses that I thought were hideous in the best way possible were the stepsisters' dresses going to the ball. Oh my god, those were the most awesome, hideous dresses I've ever seen.
I think As I said that when she was dancing, that's a definition of swooning. When you saw those dresses, it was a definition of garish. It was just, what is that?
So she nailed it. Those were perfection.
Yeah.
Exactly what they would have worn. They came out, and the two of them, they're like matching.
Yeah, exactly.
My mind was just blown by that. Incredible.
My mind actually started getting a migraine. I was watching them and I was like, what the hell happened?
But another dress that was also amazing, Fairy Godmother's dress.
Oh, hers was beautiful.
That
as well,
was gorgeous, and that also had 400 LED lights. Because originally,
Wow.
originally
Heavy.
Sandy Powell wanted the blue gown, Cinderella's gown, to light up, but they said that would be too much, so they made Fairy Godmother's the one that lights up because she's more magical.
Cool.
And I thought that was
400
fantastic.
LED
And also, it was.
Marisa raking it in on the research.
She can't go through airport
amazing.
security, I don't think.
Yeah, but
Wouldn't
also
fit.
Helena did say that she wanted to add the element of the fairy wings because that originally wasn't part of the outfit, but she was adamant there. She's like, no, I need to have wings because little kids won't believe I'm a fairy.
Oh,
So they added the wings
you
to
think
her
that's
outfit.
true? That little kids wouldn't buy that she was a fairy without wings?
I think we'll have to do it.
Well, then, like, if she wasn't a
poll.
fairy, you just called Godmother.
She kind of looked like Glinda.
Sure.
little
Yeah.
bit,
Without
yeah.
the headdress.
In a
Did
great
she have a
way.
headdress?
No,
remember.
she's got the blonde
Oh,
wig.
yeah,
she
she
had
really
blonde
did.
wig.
The whole white thing. Yeah, it was nice. It was good.
But she made it
Doesn't
work.
Glinda-
What is she?
Doesn't Glinda wear pink?
Yeah,
Yeah.
She's in the
yeah,
pink
Glinda
bubble,
wears
but I
pink.
think
Yeah.
it's a white gown, isn't it?
No, I think she's in a pink dress.
sure it's pink.
But I just meant like her vibe. She was
Sure, all right.
Glinda.
No, but like the dress, I can totally see where you're making that comparison
Yeah, the
because
big-
there was big poofy shoulders as
Yeah.
well. Like the
Big
the
poofy.
dress.
I don't mean the same color.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you put them side by side. They're like built the same way.
Yeah. Even the men's costumes were great. I loved how with Prince Charming with Kit, you know, even at the wedding scene there was a bit like there was a bit of that militaristic look
Sure.
and feel to it, but yet it was very traditional and just it was again. It looked cool. It looked great, and it matched so well with that wedding scene. Was beautiful as well.
Yeah.
Just lush. Just
Yeah,
beautiful.
And she said for all the men that they had shoulder pads to make them very squarish, rectangular.
Yeah, and a lot of it too, she wanted to look at with those outside of Cinderella's dress, like say with Cate Blanchett, a lot of it was about setting up the silhouette. We wanted those classic features, which again, you know, it's just a throwback to nostalgia. They were classic features. So yeah, there's for me, there's not a whole heck of a lot that I can look at and say. I didn't, you know, I enjoyed myself thoroughly.
That should be our last thoughts then.
Yeah.
We got to get out of here.
I think
What-
this
production
movie
design
was
was amazing.
beautiful, and it made me very excited for the next renditions. Like, they've got some great actors on board for their other retellings of some of their classic animated features. So
And you will see them all.
I will see them all.
And we will talk about them all right here.
I
Popcorn
just,
talk.
Yeah, I just want to mention quickly
Go
the
ahead.
production design also. It was fantastic. Dante Ferretti, you know, who's known for Hugo,
Right,
and that was
absolutely.
such a big
Yeah.
production as well. He said the inspiration for the looks and whatnot were the 16th, 17th, 18th century Northern European overall look, which I thought was
Yeah,
fascinating.
I mean the locations, which we didn't even talk about.
No,
I mean,
I
a lot
just
of
love all
this-
those shots with the aerial shots of the castle and the land, and it's like just-
Cinematography.
And what they were able to
That
do in the
Dutch
James
angle.
Bond 007 studio set, because it's so big, that's where the ballroom took place. And
Yeah.
In
it was
summary,
beautiful.
In summary,
despite all of the holes of the logistics, I'm okay with this. And I thought that the movie was really, really wonderful.
if it had only had
felt
one helm.
Yeah.
And the shoes,
Exactly.
and the glass slippers disappeared and turned to dust
All right.
or leather.
Do we?
Does this dust fit your shoe?
Everybody where they can find each other? Did we talk about that? Where they can tweet you? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, you can find me at dmovies1701. And right here at the
Demetri
Popcorn Talk
Panos,
Network, yes.
D Movies 1701.
You can find me at Roxy Stryer, and apparently you can find Sara at Roxy Stryer as well.
And you can
I'm
follow.
her PR now, of course.
There you go.
Here's my conjoined twin. Again, you can follow Roxy Stryer at Roxy Stryer.
And you're here.
Yeah,
And you are here. You do box office breakdown.
I do. I do
as
box
well.
office breakdown as well.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Serafini TV.
And if they want us,
And then you can follow all of us here at Popcorn Talk Network on YouTube. And then Anatomy of a Movie on Twitter. at Movie Anatomy.
And you can find me at Roxy Stryer. So I want to thank everybody for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Before we go, I got one question.
All right,
one question. Did this look like a $95 million movie to you?
Way more.
Actually, it looked like more.
I say it looked like more.
Yeah.
Really?
I would guess.
The actual
We didn't even
production
talk about that.
I know.
Jeez, oh my
the
God.
actual production budget to this movie, the production, not including hard drives and advertising, $95 million. So just under $100 million for that.
That's
For
pretty
Disney.
I think it's
dang
going to make
good.
its money.
Yeah.
I think it already
It already
did.
did.
It
Worldwide
opened. It
right
opened
now.
to like 7. It opened to 70. It opened just above Maleficent. People loved this movie, and we're all out for it.
Yeah, well, it was 67.8 when all the tallies came in, but worldwide it's done 150, estimated
already.
150 thus far. So they're doing okay.
This is just the first week.
That's right.
It
All right, we
hasn't
got to get
opened
out of here.
yet.
We're running long. Thanks very much for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the rest of the Anatomy of a Movie staff, we would like to thank you for listening and subscribing to the show. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email or tweet us. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been Anatomy of a Movie.
I was like,
Yeah.
yes.
There's a whole.
I was like, well, first of all, have you guys put on a corset? Because they make you a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Second of all, I was like,
I haven't.
there's, but
Actually,
like,
no, I haven't.
I don't
I
understand
played
why
the
she
Shakespeare
was
thing when I was
criticized so
small.
much when there's like multiple women in that movie that wear corsets that are
Yeah.
extremely skinny.
And
like
that's-
the
what were they supposed to do?
stepsisters.
To not wear a corset
I didn't bring that one up
wouldn't be
because-
authentic at all.
The
Yeah.
dress
Yeah.
day.
And if that's what she looks like, that's what she looks like.
She's also
Yeah.
just tall and skinny.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
is a tall, skinny
She's
girl.
a
No, but like the stepsisters are just as skinny. Like when you know in their corset scene where they're
I
like
didn't think
dancing
so at
around.
all.
Oh, I thought they were very, very skinny.
No, definitely not. One of them was very skinny. The other one was a little bigger.
Oh, in my mind, they all were skinny.
No, there was one who was definitely rounder, but one of them was skinny. But neither of them were as skinny as she is. But different people have different bodies. So
Yeah,
it's like,
what
I don't know. I was just watching them and
Like
I was
she
like,
has control.
Cate Blanchett looked really skinny to
Cate
me.
Blanchett might be the skinniest of all of them.
Yeah,
she
she is
is
skinny.
tiny.
Yeah, so I was just like, the second princess from Celsius.
She was gorgeous. Who was that?
I don't know, but I was just like, why is Lily getting picked out of this as like, you're too skinny? And like,
Yeah, it was
there's
such a
I'm like,
Oh, I didn't even talk about.
controversy.
I didn't even talk about my ring.
Yeah,
and
well,
my,
yeah, well, we couldn't get a close up. That's one
gems.
reason I didn't want to say anything about the ring.
Yeah,
Like,
because I go like this and they say,
and
"What is she
if we
doing?"
weren't going to get the damn poem with the minion voice, I don't think we should get
Sarah,
the
can you
ring.
please do the minion voice?
Come on.
no, it's not.
Now.
You're not on.
I'm not good at it. I can do it like when we're in Roxy's bedroom. You know the minions? They're like, banana, banana. So then the master is like,
Yeah.
It's really good.
I love that. That's
I wanted it so bad. I set you up for it.
You gotta work on that. That's great. You should pull that out any time. People will go crazy.
I have a friend who is actually the most minion of minion people I've ever met. She's in my acting class. Her name is Kat.
Trying to do it, or
No, like she should. She should professionally do it. It's actually scary. She like has their thought process down.
oh my god, that's not good.
She has their thought process. Yeah, you're right. That is scary.
Where's my phone?
Ay, ay, ay. Ay.
So I really enjoyed this next movie that we had.
Yeah, are we doing it in here?
Yeah.
Good, good. Good. Who's doing it?
You, me, John, and Frank.
Phil's not doing it?
No.
Oh, okay. So where's he gonna sit? On the couch or what?
Probably on the piano if there's just 4 of us.
Yeah, I got a bunch to talk with him about. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we can take one down. Wait. No, you're not moving this chair.
I was right.
This chair is comfortable.
Yeah, I was right. I did. Hold on. I can't find anybody. It's me, I tell you.
Yeah, I agree. So I was like, wait, what? No, come here, now!
Changed clothing. You would change 12 days ago.
Mr. Sir.
God damn it. What kind of password is that?
You changed it again? What is it now?
What kind of password is that? Alright, there you go.
Did it stop?
This is popcorn.
Okay, let's go to the live events and sign it up.
Did you stop it?
I hit the stop button and then it said, please sign in, and I was like,